I'm going to share my story about kind of creating the Change Collective, and then each of these lovely students are going to share their stories about kind of where they've come from and where they might want to be going in life and their experiences with this program. And then they also are going to share their definitions of success, and we'll answer any questions that you might have. And then we can all just kind of chat about what success means to us or anything else that kind of comes up from what we share. And please help yourself to all the nibbles in the back. Don't hesitate. And then if you need to use the restroom at any time, they're on the second floor. So with that, I will dive into kind of why this whole thing started. So in my 6 years of being in this position, many of the projects that I've overseen have relied upon student employees to help execute. And so I, for some years, developed family and community programs, and I had students facilitating activities. And a colleague was like, "Hey, you know, you're doing a great job serving these family audiences, but like, you should also pay attention to how these students are being affected by this program." I was like, "No, that's a good point." So I started to pay more attention to the students' experience. And as I made more space for them to kind of share their thoughts about how we could improve the program and what they were learning about, you know, interacting with families, I was really pretty blown away by how invested they were in what we were doing. And so it kind of snowballed into me wanting to create more opportunities for these students to get to actually help create the programs that they were facilitating, and more opportunities for them to bond intentionally, where this particular situation, they were like, I would wake up crazy early and we would drive in a big 15-passenger van an hour away to visit Megan's institution. And so they're all like falling asleep, eating bagels in the back while I'm, you know, trying to get us down to South Denver and stuff. But they were already bonding, but I was starting to realize like, oh, I could be a lot more intentional about this opportunity. Like they could be gaining more from this if I kind of created more structure. And like more opportunities for them to reflect on what we were doing together and how they could grow from that experience and connect it to what they wanted to do. And so I spent a good amount of time kind of like loosely developing like a student development program for these students who are delivering these family and community programs. And then my focus shifted to helping develop some exhibits for the Mesa Verde National Park Archaeology Museum. But in doing that exhibit work, hi Sarah Dawn, I was working less directly with students. And then I had a baby, and I came back from maternity leave, and I was like, I would like to be half-time, like, what might the options be for something that would be, you know, helpful for me to offer to the museum and our community, while also kind of leveraging my strengths. And really working with students had been like the thing that I was the most passionate about, which I, you know, had kind of stumbled upon through my work. And so I was presented with an opportunity to create a program that was a little more formalized. And so with the support of the museum director, Pat Koselik, we really crafted a vision for the Change Collective program. And so the vision was, we're going to hire about 10 students, and they're all going to work about 5 hours a week in different museum jobs. And I'm going to develop this personal professional development program that they can come as a team, and we're going to spend like hour and a half, 2 hours together every other week. And I'm going to create a curriculum around that. And then they're also going to have the opportunity to earn a micro-credential, which I didn't know what that was, but it's like a CU branded stamp of approval that they've done a lot of hard work. And so over the summer, I like crafted this curriculum and these micro-credential kind of assignments, which were really inspired by a whole bunch of different experiences that I've participated in. So professional development programs offered through CU, kind of professional unconference experiences that I've had at a lovely experience called Museum Camp, just being on the job in the museum field for 13 years, and then things outside of the professional realm, like yoga classes or activities from a book called The Artist's Way, or just other things that I have found to be inspiring in my own personal and professional development. So alongside my colleagues who are graciously open-minded and supportive, so Jim, who we're so happy to have here tonight, as well as Pat Koselik and Gianna Sullivan, who coordinates some family and outreach programs, and Samantha Eads, who is our visitor services coordinator. We hired about 10 students from a pool of over 40 really well-qualified applicants. And so they started working in different areas. And so Emily was working with Jim, helping support school programs. And Sunny was working with Sam Eads, doing a visitor studies project. And then Jeremy and Rachel, which you'll hear more about all of these things, but they were working with Pat, who is the director, but also our curator of diatoms, which if you don't know what diatoms are, they're going to tell you all about it. And then Aisha, Jose, Hope, and a couple others. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody right now, but they've dwindled. We're working with me to create audience experiences for CU students. And the goal there was really to involve other CU students and community members as we created that. And so this co-creation project, we settled on the topic of sustainable futures. And for that part of our shared work, we started off with kind of asking community members for their feedback about like what doesn't feel sustainable in our lives right now, what do you want the world to look like in 30 years, and like how can museums maybe help us get there. And so we had a little community brainstorm, which Megan was so wonderful to participate in, and so was Sarah Dawn. And Emily couldn't, but her colleague did. And unfortunately, Jim was dealing with his COVID booster. But we gathered a bunch of feedback from people, and we're like, okay, what can we do with this in a spring semester timeline? So we ended up creating a video of community members responding to some different prompts about how they connected with nature and themselves and community. And then just a couple of weekends ago, we hosted Sustainable Futures Fest and got to have people looking at microscopic life and making terrariums to connect with nature and making art to connect with community. And other plans kind of went awry for various reasons. But that's kind of like part of the work that we've been doing. And last summer, as I was exploring these co-creation project ideas, I was chatting with Sarah Dawn and thinking about maybe collaborations. She works at the Environmental Center, thinking about different topics, and she brought up this topic of sustainable futures, which we ran with. But pondering this term really kind of clarified my goals for the whole program. So when I dream about what I want the future to look like when my children are adults, I see a world in which people are spending their time and their energy and their thoughts and their gifts and their efforts on things that really benefit humanity and the planet. And I see a world in which our teenagers and young adults feel curious about their own potential and feel empowered to use their unique perspectives and talents to affect the change that they want to see. I see a world in which we, and especially our youth, are not so riddled with anxiety and depression, and that suicide isn't like the fourth leading cause of teenage death. A world in which we know how to sustain our own energy so that we can make a more positive impact in the world around us. Because we do have a lot of challenges that we're collectively facing, and if we don't know how to sustain our own energy, we're probably not going to be super effective at creating those changes and facing those challenges together. So I dream of a world in which our systems and structures, including our universities, support the holistic growth of young human beings, young adults, and provide tools on how to affect positive change outwardly while maintaining balance on the inside. So through this program, we've hoped to equip these students with some tools and experiences to pursue purposeful and sustainable career pathways as change makers. And as inherent learning environments and places for young adults to embark on their professional pathways, I think universities are uniquely positioned, and I would say almost we should have a commitment to this kind of work to really help young adults cultivate skills that are going to positively impact our world while viewing us humans as whole people and not just focusing on your academic grades, which there's a lot of importance in learning content to pursue professions, but we're a little bit more complex than that. Alongside the practical experience of working in a museum, these students participated in group conversations and professional exploration activities and a lot of individual reflections to not only grow in their professional capacities as museum employees, but also in their abilities to connect with and understand other professionals and their teammates and themselves. They will have participated in 13 team sessions, personal professional development sessions, and will have submitted 40 different assignments for their micro-credentials, whoop, 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 including a ton of self-reflections, conducting interviews with people that they found inspiring, interviewing each other about their museum work, critiquing inspiring resources. This is an experiment. I'm is this too much? Probably so. But kind of trying to figure out what are some activities that might help support them in that, kind of holistic exploration. I will say our team shrunk a bit from 10 to 7-ish at the moment. Some students had too much on their plates. One student is unfortunately dealing with some unforeseen family circumstances. But all these students have really navigated a lot of obstacles and embraced a lot of opportunities. So they've worked with challenges inherent in having a program coordinator who's learning to be half-time and dealt with ongoing pivots that our pandemic era presents us with, including a lot of shifting to virtual things that we thought were going to be in person, bouncing back and forth between which of those two things are going to happen, and really just embracing this kind of first-time nature of this pilot year of this program. So whether or not they wish to impact the world through museum work, I hope that this experience has given them tools to create more effective and sustainable changes, both outside of themselves and within themselves. And to quote the soccer great and equity advocate, Megan Rapinoe, when you know yourself and your strengths, there's always something you can do to raise the standard for everyone. So we will now finally hear from these students about their stories of learning about themselves and their strengths and the ways in which they wish to raise the standard for everyone. So I introduce to you Hope Fox. And do you guys all want to just quickly say your name, your year, and what you're studying, and then dive into your speeches?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll just do it at the podium.
Perfect.
I stand and talk.
And this is just audio recording, so pay no attention here. And then you got this mic.
Does the mic do anything? Or is it
just...
I don't think the mic is doing anything.
I don't know.
I think the mic is here for show.
You're welcome to use it. I know you can project.
If anyone's yelling, it's me. Right. Yeah, clap. Come on. Thank you. How's everyone doing? Great. Okay, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Hope. I am currently a senior with a history major, economics minor, and I'm receiving 2 certificates, one through the Center of the American West and one through the Center of Native American and Indigenous Studies. So my story begins. For as long as I can remember, history has been a subject I've been fascinated with. So when I came to college, I had to prepare myself to be excited to study economics. After a good solid month of trying, I knew economics was not for me and that my passion for history would never die. The pressure of my parents encouraging me to abandon my love for history for the safer option and the workload for a topic I did not understand, I felt compelled to follow a different path. Throughout my 4 years here, I grew to accept and learn the art of pushing, pulling, and being stubborn. Before I even knew what was happening, I'm now preparing to graduate with my history major and economics minor. My college career has offered more than enough challenges for me to overcome, from getting a 27% on my last math test, slogging through history courses I would never care about, and the life happenings of a college student in 21st century America. Now that I'm standing on the precipice of entering the real world, I feel encouraged to look back on what I have learned both in and out of the classroom. Joining the Change Collective in the fall, I was coming in with the expectation that I would be gaining work experience in the classical museum setting, spending hours researching archival materials and doing history. Although this is not what I would find myself doing, I ended up finding a community who not only supports me, but was more than accepting of the support I had to offer to them. In this experience, I learned valuable lessons about myself and the impact I'm capable of making. In the creation of our previous events, I experienced roadblocks and setbacks to projects I was excited in pursuing, but ultimately knew were not possible in developing. As an Indigenous person, now working within the museum setting, I was eager to share our perspectives and our views in a way that empowers us. In this work, I reached out to Indigenous professionals asking for their input on sustainable futures from their perspectives. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond my control, not my fault, the number of responses I received, I did not feel like it was enough to present. Although I'm grateful for the 2 very thoughtful responses shared, too many times have I experienced our history shared in an uninspired way, typically making it feel shoehorned in and tokenizing. Rather than completing this project with insufficient resources, I would much rather abandon a good idea than present something I would not feel proud of. While I think there is a value in setting a goal and seeing it through until the end, sometimes it's just not possible. Although I see myself being a somewhat stubborn person, this experience has shown me that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not see something out for whatever reasons there may be and to accept changes as they may come. Despite not being able to carry out projects I felt passionate about, I was still able to show up for my community and provide support in thoughtful ways. Although I have been part of many teams before, the Change Collective helped me understand on a more meaningful level what a team is in a professional setting. Throughout the past year, I've discovered my passion for leadership and public speaking. Learning should not just happen in a formal academic setting alone, but in environments that foster community support and encouragement. And I wish to be a person to facilitate just that. I believe I can speak for all of us when I say that coming into the Change Collective, we were not sure what to expect of our work and of each other, but we've been able to pursue knowledge in meaningful ways and come together as a group, eager to help one another succeed. I don't know what my future holds or what careers I want to pursue, but I know that if my passions are being followed and I'm able to build successful relationships, I'm going to be successful. Clap.
Hello, my name is Rachel Shea. I'm a junior majoring in e-bio with a minor in sociology and pursuing a certificate in animals and society. When I first came to CU, I was set on getting a degree in a field that would allow me to best contribute to the effort of saving our environment. To do this, I started as a freshman in environmental engineering and was determined to pull through in this major until graduation because I had thought that getting an environmental engineering degree was the best way I'd be able to contribute to make the most impact on sustainability and preserving our environment. During my sophomore year at home, due to the pandemic, I struggled to decide whether or not to take a gap year, thinking my potential engineering classes might be too much outside the support system I had back on campus. I decided I would take continuing education classes asynchronously from home in subject areas outside of the engineering path, partially because I wanted a break from engineering and partially because I had interests that were far outside my major. Surprisingly or not, those 2 isolating semesters at home consisted of the first classes where I was honestly enjoying my learning and actually happy to read the course material. I felt like I was learning more practical information that I wouldn't have learned otherwise had I continued directly down my prospective engineering path. My intro biology classes, though fast-paced and asynchronous, were so interesting to me that I was obsessed about reading every page of the textbook. Then later that summer, I visited the American Museum of Natural History and was enthralled to see the extensive exhibits on Earth's evolutionary history that I had just spent months immersing myself in. This, coupled with binging nature documentaries in my free time, led me to realize that I could make a change in my college career now that would nourish my passions and interests while continuing to create a path for myself in the future to fulfill my goals of environmentalism. I had to get over the fear of judgment, of switching to an easier major. Leaving the College of Engineering as a woman with very proud parents was a hard pill to swallow, but after realizing that I could be proud of myself for pursuing what I'm interested in, and realizing that my parents would be proud of me for that too, I began to accept that it was okay to change your major. And I was excited to find out that evolutionary biology and ecology was a much better fit for me. This has been my first year as an official eBio major. This fall, I had a Gen Bio lab, and I was super fascinated by the microscopes in the first week of classes. Then I found out about the Change Collective program and was very interested in the opportunity to gain experience working in a lab setting and also studying diatoms, microscopic algae that I had heard about in my Bio 2 class. This program and working experience has opened my eyes to more possible career paths I've never previously considered, and being around like-minded individuals has affirmed my decision to switch my major from engineering to eBio. Having access to the lab and microscopes has been really great for my newfound curiosity about biology. There's been times in the lab while waiting on samples to process where I would just examine my food for my lunch under the microscope, just so fascinated by the normally invisible microscopic world right under our noses. Once my supervisor, Pat, came into the lab and said, anytime someone's looking through a microscope, I have to come see what it is. I had to admit it was just an onion for my lunch, but it was definitely a candid moment for me in the lab. Having the opportunity to work alongside Pat Kostelik, the director of our museum and world-renowned diatomist, has been so inspiring and an incredible learning experience. I've become familiar with sample processing and lab work, using different types of microscopes, and I've been guided in writing a scientific paper based on first-hand research. I can say without a doubt that these have been some of the most valuable experiences since coming to college. During our Sustainable Futures Fest that the Change Collective put on in the museum, I got to show visitors the microscopes. It was so cool to witness the astonished excitement they had when looking at the microscopes for the first time. The same excitement I felt when looking at the diatoms and onions. I feel like being in this major and doing work in line with my interests has helped me feel closer than ever to my definition of success, and I feel confident that I'm now on the path that's right for me. I can't stress enough how much I've appreciated the opportunity to work with Pat, the microscopes, and getting to know all the members of the Change Collective. Not only has this experience been so influential in my future in biology, but I also have found an amazing community to which I feel at home.
Cool. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Manriquez Hernandez. I'm studying leadership/community engagement and history, as well as minoring in education. When I came to CU, I aspired to be a doctor, and so I started off in molecular, cellular, developmental biology because I wanted to help people, and what better way to help people than to heal them. I quickly realized that being a doctor required a lot more work than I realized. In my sophomore year, I was working around 35 hours a week, which left me with barely any time to put into my studying. I worried that I wasn't able to spend enough time studying in undergrad if I became a doctor. I wouldn't know what was wrong with the patient's health, especially after receiving a 55% on my first exam. Being a doctor wouldn't be my calling, which was a bummer, but I knew I still wanted to help others. I just needed to find out the way that I wanted to do so. In my sophomore year, I took Step 1, which is a teaching program that introduces you to working with teaching and students. And I got to work with a class of third graders. A student cut me off, on my first observation to the classroom, I was introducing myself to a couple of third graders. A student cut me off before I finished introducing myself and said, "Look, mister, we have the same skin color." I finished saying my name, and he said, "That's my dad's name. That's so cool." I high-fived him, and we continued to work on his assignment. That moment made me realize how important it is to have representation in the eyes of people of color going through the K-12 system. It's hard to be motivated when you can't see your own people in role model positions. With my interests working in education systems, I would hope to add to the diversity of the education system. Something that I didn't expect, however, was working in a museum. I ended up being a part of this program because I wasn't interested in museums as a kid. I know what you're thinking. What kind of backwards logic is that? Growing up, I felt like I could never enjoy going to museums, as they never felt like anything I could relate to, besides dinosaurs, because they're pretty cool. But nothing was accessible to my Spanish-speaking parents. Any questions I asked them about a museum, they could never answer. But you know, what better way to change something than to be a part of something that you critique and make those changes yourself? I was happy to be a part of the Museum of Downtown Boulder, where we did research on including Latinx perspectives engaging the youth of Boulder. I expected to hate working in a museum, but ended up loving it. I wanted to continue to develop my understanding and work with museums, so I ended up signing up for this program after I was referred by Celeste Moreno. Through the Museum of Boulder, I found out the power that the youth have when they are able to use their voice and given a platform to talk about their Latinx experience and the culture that they have to share. There's a student that I worked with during my work with the Museum of Boulder that was guarded about her culture, and rightfully so. She asked, why should we be sharing the traditions and cultural values that are so personal to the Latinx community? I understood where she was coming from, and I responded that she has every right to feel that way. But I also said that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to write your own history. I'm tired of having people speak for me and who don't look like me, and I'm pleased to share that she ended up choosing to exhibit her work at the Museum of Boulder. I'd like to make museums a place where POC are valued and feel welcomed. If I end up working in a museum someday, I would want to see the changes that I would have liked to see in museums growing up, and this is just one step in that direction. There's so much untapped potential in the youth that we are working with every day. While one of the avenues available to me is teaching, it's crazy to see how early kids are understanding and learning technology. I walked into a third grade classroom where students had to submit assignments through Google Drive. I don't know about y'all, but I never worked with Google Drive until like 6th grade. So the youth of today have so much potential. Being able to either create a learning environment for them or even just a welcoming community would feel like a dream come true to me. All in all, the Change Collective is a work study job that's what a work study job should look like. Most of us here are seniors and are looking forward to graduation, but some of the things that we did here are critical learning points that seniors and lowerclassmen alike can benefit from. Getting to have these meetings with professionals that are already in the careers and asking questions like about their career or life path pivots, or just questions on figuring out what success looks like. And then sitting in awkward silence, because who really has a definition of success? This job allowed me to get a perspective of the different ways in which a museum can collaborate with its community using the different tools and resources that they have to benefit those around them. Taking responses straight from the community through our brainstorming event and being able to reflect on all of our experiences is something that you wouldn't find in any other job anywhere.
Hello. Can y'all see me? Hi all, my name is Aisha Rowell and thank you. I am currently a senior at CU Boulder studying CTD, which is Creative Technology and Design in the College of Engineering. So this year was really a year of uncertainties, whether it was big picture questions like figuring out where I would live next year and what my plans were, figuring out what to eat every night for dinner, or simply just trying to figure out who I am and where I fit into this world. With my mental health already kind of on the edge, I needed some kind of direction in the sea of uncertainty, which is when I found this program. The year before, during the height of the pandemic, I dove headfirst into a new hobby, reptile keeping. With this new passion came a renewed interest in biology, conservation, and sustainability. This soon turned into one of my biggest passions, and I realized that my dream job would be utilizing my creative and engineering skills to build habitats in zoos, aquariums, and museums, and promoting the beauty and conservation of these habitats. I was interested in a museum position from this background, and seeing as I've also always been drawn to spaces of social change and community, I decided to apply to the Change Collective. When I found the Change Collective, it felt like the epitome of what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to create something lasting, something with significant impact on myself, my community, and hopefully the world. In this moment, I want to create a world where community care is the norm, Intersectionality is no longer a buzzword and instead just is, and where equity and advocacy are regarded in the highest sense. More tangibly, I want to create. I want to use my creativity to better the lives of others, whether that is through designing a product, painting something beautiful, or opening somebody's eyes to the beauty of the natural world. This program has helped me shape myself as a person as well as a student, change maker, and leader. The work we have done, especially throughout the community organizing and events we ran, allowed me to gain insight into the process of designing an audience experience and helped me realize that audience experience design is something that I really enjoy. More than that, my peers, who I have had the privilege of working with and meeting through this program, are people who are true friends. As somebody who typically struggles to make friends, building this community with each other and working together towards a common goal has created a space where we are not afraid to be vulnerable with each other. These things have really helped me redefine how I view my future and reprioritize. I now realize how important my friendships are to me and how much I rely on them. Honestly, this year has been really hard on me, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying this. Navigating these huge life changes, such as apartments, jobs, and graduation, as well as the day-to-day stressors of life, really take a toll on us. But with the community I have found through the Change Collective, it has made all the difference. It has been a learning experience, but one that I am incredibly grateful for. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jeremy Greifenstein. I'm a junior studying ecology and evolutionary biology. First off, I have to thank whoever sets up the Be Involved fair on campus, because I would not be where I am today without them. Let me explain. After all the COVID craziness of 2020 and in the beginning of 2021, last fall it finally seemed like the university was starting to become more open and things were slowly getting back to normal. So, one September afternoon, I decided to go to the annual fair they have at Norling Quad in hopes to finally join some clubs or find employment. Just as I was beginning to leave, I stumbled upon the CU Museum tent, and I believe Rebecca was manning the booth and told me about this program the museum was running called the Change Collective. After reading the flyer, I saw there was a diatom lab assistant position. The possibility of working at a lab combined with personal and professional development sessions was exactly what I was looking for. So I applied immediately, and once accepted, I was not exactly sure what to expect, particularly my work with diatoms. In our introductory Change Collective meeting, I remember Pat, the curator of diatoms and director of the museum, introducing himself by saying, "Well, I study scum." And after that, I was 100% in. I've always had a deep appreciation for our planet and a love of nature. However, I've always focused my interest towards macroorganisms. I wanted to set myself up for a career studying large animals like wolves or sharks. Although touched on in my classes, the microbial world was not something I believed I would truly throw myself into. Being part of the diatom lab on campus has truly made me reconsider that belief. Diatoms, as Rachel said, are photosynthetic single-celled algae that live in almost every water source, and I had no idea how diverse and beautiful their world is. Nor do many people, I might add. Though the processing and cleaning of samples was not the highlight of my life, the real fun came when we started using the microscopes. I did not realize how fun it actually is to sit and look through a microscope for an extended period of time. Looking at hundreds and hundreds of little organisms on one small slide puts your own life into perspective and how lucky we are to be human. The fact that we found 2 new species is also an incredible feeling as a scientist in the making. Our research consistently makes my eBio brain churn and has refined my scientific skills. The more we discuss morphology and phylogenetics, the more and more questions I have. It makes me excited that I have barely scratched the surface of this world, and there are many, many more genera to explore. Paired with my work in the lab has been our Change Collective meetings. These have almost been more rewarding, as I underestimated at first how much the personal and professional development sessions would help. Discussing where everyone was at in their life at a given moment while having activities that encourage sustainability within ourselves and the museum was something I look forward to every week. Through various panels, interviews, and listening to every member's perspectives, I realized we're all in the same boat. No one has a clear path in life, but if you follow your passions and form relationships with good people who want to see you succeed, whatever your definition of success may be, it will work out. The meetings help me stay positive about my life and career path while offering tools to aid my well-being and success. Reflecting on my personal goals was something that I had not done previously, and I encourage everyone to do so because it is a great exercise. My main reason for applying to CU and majoring in eBio was to study something environmental while experiencing Colorado's natural beauty. Yet, I wanted to set myself up for a career in which I could have a genuine impact in the world. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I want my life to have some sort of meaning beyond myself. I believe climate change is the defining problem of our generation, as it will be up to us to find a sustainable way of living on this planet. Promoting sustainable futures is the type of work that makes me just feel good about myself. I feel proud to have helped create several events for students and Boulder residents through this program. My time at the museum has reaffirmed my belief that these institutions can be the backbone of inspiring knowledge and change in communities. I can easily see myself working in similar institutions later in life, and I would enjoy every minute of it. I want to thank my fellow Change Collective members, Rebecca, Pat, and everyone else that has helped along the way. It is you I have to thank for refining my career choices and being part of something that is truly good for our community. And I can truly say that I'm excited for what the future will hold.
Okay, hello, my name is Sunny, and I'm a psych major, soci minor at CU. So to end up here, I've come a long way. I grew up in a tiny town in Texas for the majority of my life. When I was in elementary school, I was obsessed with performing veterinary services on stuffed animals in my closet. So my siblings would wait nervously outside on a bench while they were reading magazines as I used whatever tools I could steal from my parents to perform life-saving surgeries on their pets. I loved doing this so much that I was convinced that I wanted to become a veterinarian when I grew up. This dream quickly fizzled out, however, once I discovered that when you operate on real animals, what's inside is not soft, white stuffing, but a lot of blood and scary-looking things that made me feel lightheaded. I later realized that I really liked listening to different people talk about their friendships and their relationships, and I was curious about the different ways humans behaved. I wondered if there were any answers to questions like, why do some people like sports so much that they are willing to paint their bodies and faces in their team's colors? I soon realized that the field of psychology addressed these types of questions. I also learned that psychology was used to help people, so I soon became determined that psychology was what I wanted to pursue. I applied to CU as a psych major, and I decided to move here all the way from Texas because I wanted something new. I wanted to take a risk and step away from my life in Texas. While I was excited, it was a very stressful time for me because I did not know anybody here, and I had no family anywhere close to Colorado. I was also very stressed about the financial burden I was putting on my family for going to this school as an out-of-state student. Thankfully, I was able to connect with my neighbors in my dorm as we formed an intramural soccer team, and I found ways to reduce the strain on my parents by working, earning scholarships, and taking specific classes. Also a lot of student loans, but we're not going to think about that right now. When I started this academic school year, I wanted to start out fresh and try to make the most of my senior year. So I sought out jobs on campus, and I discovered the Change Collective program. The program description emphasized personal and professional development, which I felt like I really needed to work on, and I also thought it would be a great opportunity to meet and work with other students who cared about academics and sustainability. In my museum experience, I have discovered how important the educational side of psychology is to me, and how it so closely aligns with my personal values of growth, curiosity, and being a change maker. By applying what I've learned through the Change Collective experiences and my other experiences, I was recently accepted in to Teach for America, where I will teach, where I will teach math in a high-need school district in Tennessee. So I will once again be moving to a place where I don't know anybody. However, I will say that taking the risk and moving here made me a more developed person, so I'm looking forward to how that new endeavor might accelerate my growth. For now, I plan on pursuing the education route, and I hope to use my skills and knowledge to help increase opportunities for those who are marginalized. While it is not the brave work of healing stuffed animals in a closet, I hope I will be able to make a significant impact. This semester, in a Change Collective reflection activity, as you've heard about, we were encouraged to think about our own definitions of success. This was an interesting idea to me because I had never really come up with a specific definition of success for myself. Throughout my life, I've mainly used other people's definitions of success. When I was little, I thought success meant being wealthy enough to buy all of the Gushers candy that you wanted. And then later, I thought that success meant having a perfect GPA while playing guitar, being able to bench press 300 pounds, having 5 different jobs and internships, and meditating for an hour and a half while writing a novel as well. As you can probably assume, I didn't ever really feel successful. Those metrics of success didn't really resonate with me, so defining success for myself was an eye-opening experience. My current definition of success, as you'll hear later, is trying to both protect my energy, and push myself so that I can grow a bit each day and help to serve others. With this definition, I feel much more successful, much more often, and my daily work feels a lot more meaningful. I'm very grateful for this experience in the Change Collective, and I have enjoyed getting to know my fellow members so much. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about myself, and I hope I offer something helpful as you all pursue your own journeys.
All right. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a junior here. I'm a history and Spanish double major with a dance and a Jewish studies minor and an LGBT studies certificate. So, I remember during the first week of kindergarten, my teacher, Miss Seymour, started teaching us about space. Immediately, I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I ran home that day, so excited to tell my parents what I wanted to be when I grew up, an aerospace engineer. Granted, none of my friends knew what that meant, but I didn't care. All throughout school, I thought that that was what I was going to do. I took robotics classes, engineering classes. I was 2 years ahead in math and had to go to high school for math in 8th grade every other day. They even gave me my own bus. But then I started calculus in my sophomore year of high school, and I hated it. I was miserable every day I had to go to class, and I was a nerd, so I had never dreaded school before. It was a new feeling, and I hated it. I knew then that there was no way I was going to be happy doing math for the rest of my life. My apologies to anyone who still has to do calculus. You have all my sympathy. So this realization was terrifying. For 10 years, which was more than half my life, I had been so certain of the future, and all of a sudden it disappeared. I had never felt so lost. I decided on a history degree in college, much to the chagrin of my parents, since I knew I enjoyed history at the very least. But I still didn't know what career I wanted. Every time I visited my parents, they'd always ask me, "What are you going to do after college?" As if the answer would have changed in a week. I was enjoying my classes, but the underlying fear wouldn't go away. I found myself applying for every internship the history department threw my way, hoping that first, I'd actually get one, and second, that they'd magically help me figure out what to do with my life. And I got this one, and it did. I got 2 internships last semester, one here with the Change Collective and one at Northern Library working in the archives. And I knew I had finally found my passions. I had volunteered with the Denver Museum of Nature and Science in Space Odyssey in high school, but I had never considered it as a career option before. I loved working in Space Odyssey, teaching visitors about something I had always loved, space. Watching children get excited to learn and running to tell their parents what I had just taught them, it was a special feeling that I loved, but I thought my path was set for me, so I didn't consider it a viable career option. But coming back to working in a museum during this internship had relit that passion in me and helped me realize that I can do this as a career, that I don't have to leave it behind. In the Change Collective, we've done so many self-reflections, asking questions that I'd never sat down and truly considered before, and it helped me realize that I'm truly passionate about working in museums. For the first time in years, I feel like I know what career path I want to take. These internships helped me realize that I want to work in museums or libraries, that I want to spend my life making information more accessible to the public, especially those groups that historically have been left out. The relief I felt was huge. We also had to conduct interviews, one with our supervisor, Jim, who's here, and one with someone we found inspiring. These interviews were just as reassuring because they helped me realize that I wasn't alone. No one else knew what they wanted either. People had changed their plans so many times and were taken in different directions than they'd ever thought they'd go. So everyone feels a little lost. Overall, I'm grateful for this program, for giving me an idea of what I want to do with my life, and for helping me realize that really, we're all a little confused, and it's okay to not have everything figured out. Thank you.
Fantastic job, all of you. Thanks to each of you for sharing. I've been very fortified, I guess, by getting to see and hear these kind of final reflections from you all. And it's like, okay, this was a learning experience for all of us, and I would have changed things, and not everything went the way I wanted it to, and but getting to hear all of your reflections, I'm like, okay, you did get positive things out of this, even though we have hurdles and such as life, right? One of my hopes has been that these students feel empowered to achieve success in a way that feels meaningful and sustainable to them. And part of that desire comes from working with students over the years and seeing their kind of inner struggles with not feeling successful. And I don't think it's unique to students. I think it's a human experience. But in my own life experiences, I have come to try to rethink how I view success. And make sure that the way I'm viewing my self-worth really aligns with my values. So as you heard from them, one of their reflection activities was really to think about what does success mean to them. So I'm going to have each of them share their definition of success. And then if you guys have questions for us, we can have a little Q&A, and then we can have some not super formal kind of open house conversations we can kind of take in whatever direction we want to with this nice sized crowd. So Hope, would you share your definition of success?
Okay, I'm Hope, just in case anyone forgot. And my definition of success is a feeling of pride and accomplishment after a job well done. Oh, wow.
I'm Rachel again. Success is being proud of what you do and also being invested in excelling at what you do.
Success is feeling secure, balanced, and motivated.